there, Tracy here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this adorable little baby elephant shaker card using the Not Too Shabby Box of the Month Club. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using today. I'll be using the Not Too Shabby Shop and Lynn Easy Wonder Die number 1. I'll be using the soft blue florals from the January box kit of the month. Love, love, love. These are so gorgeous. Oh, I just can't get over it. And then I'll be using these Party Critters die cuts, which they're so cute. It was hard to choose one. And then I'll be using the inside birthday greetings for the inside of the card. I'm so glad that there's inside greetings for cards these days because I don't know what to say. Yeah, happy birthday. You know, I'm not a really wordy person. So I have everything already all cut out, and I'm trying to adjust my lights here because my camera does not like. There we go. We'll just move things down so that you can actually see what I'm doing. All right, that's much better. Now you can see all my parts. So here's the piece that I cut from the Easy Wonder die, and then I cut a backer piece for it. So we'll start with our shaker. And it's a standalone shaker, so you don't have to worry about, trying to get your pieces in. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and trim my acetate. I'm going to tape it down, and then I'll trim it afterwards. And I'm just using a scrap piece from my stash. A little bit of tape. I'm just going to cover this whole little backer piece with tape. I just like using tape with acetate because I'm really bad about glue squishy. And let me zoom in here for you so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll go ahead and pull up the backer parts. Try and get the garbage out of the way so it's not so distracting for you. And then I'll just lay down my acetate on here, and then I'll trim off the excess. And I could still use those excess pieces for, an interactive card. So I'll probably save them, but maybe not. I don't know. Do you ever get to the point where you've saved so much stuff you can't find anything anymore? Yeah, that's pretty much me. Now I'm going to grab a piece of my double-sided foam tape, and I've taken most of the backer off so that I can easily get it around this circle. And I almost got the right amount. I just got a little bit under. But I like to cut my piece off versus trying to do it from a giant foam roll. So I've just got that little tiny space there, and I'll just fill that in with a little small piece. Just kind of shove it up against the one side and then trim it off on the other. Just want to make sure that the shaker portion is fully enclosed. And then I'll go ahead and just add some tape around the outside edges to support the piece because I don't want it getting smushed because it would. So I'm just kind of doing the very corners using the same height of tape. So you could use any height depending on your shaker bits. If you're using clay pieces, you want a little bit taller of a foam tape so that, they can actually move around. Let's get these last two pieces on here. And that one's just a little too long. There we go. All right, that part's done. Easy peasy. All right, I'm going to take my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to kind of go around the whole thing so that my shaker bits don't stick to anything on the sides. And then I'll just take a rag and just sort of wipe off my shaker window part. The shaker bits will help clean some of that off too. And then I'm going to go ahead and add just some various little shaker bits. These are shaker pops. And then I've got some, let's see, what else are we going to put in here? What I'm struggling with is, if you all know me, I am a bright color person. And I don't have a lot of muted tones in my stash of embellishment. But I did find these sort of turquoise color that I feel like go nicely with the whole color scheme of this paper. And it's important to think about that when you are creating a shaker, is what's on the outside. If you get some clashy stuff, I mean, you may want that, but typically no. And these are just some little iridescent shakers. And these are all just stuff from varied companies from my stash. I'll go ahead and carefully pull off the backer pieces, and I don't have to worry about the circle part because I already had the backer off. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of liquid glue here just so that I have a tiny bit of wiggle room as I lay down the enclosing piece to this. And that shaker part is done. You could stick it to anything you want. And this doesn't have to be perfect as long as none of it sticks out the other side and it covers your shaker portion. So there we go. Now I've got this standalone shaker and the rest is easy. So we'll go ahead and get started on the rest. I have, let me just pick these up here real quick because I know they're distracting. Isn't that just gorgeous all by itself? I love, love, love this paper. I'm just going to rave about it until the paper pad is gone and I'm sad and I'll buy another one. All right, so here are the rest of my pieces that I've cut, and you do see those extra pieces from the Easy Wonder die, but I'm going to be working on the base layer and then a matte layer. And I've got this strip from the same paper pad that I'm going to glue down, and I'm just sort of auditioning where I think I might want it to go. And this is no particular sketch of anyone's, it's just what came together in my brain. So this is the flip side of the paper that you see on the shaker. I'm always happy when I can use both sides of the papers. So we'll just get that glued down to the base layer here. And it's going to stick out over the edges a little bit, and I'm okay with that because that layer is 4 by 5 1/4, and that's just a kind of a gray color paper from my stash. I think it's a steel gray or something, so it almost looks blue. And then I'll go ahead and glue this down to the matte layer, which is going to be the full A2 size. And it's sort of a cream color. Yeah, I look for colors in my stash that kind of went along with, look, did you see? I just did a Carrie. Only I didn't do a heart. I didn't want to take her trademark. I look for papers in my stash that will kind of go along with the papers that I receive in kits like this. All right, we've got those pieces ready to go. And here I have a top folding card base. And what I want to do here is I want to stamp the inside with one of the inside sentiments, inside birthday sentiments, which I think are super cool. Because, yeah, as I said earlier, I'm not very good at thinking of what to say on the inside of a card. I'm a minimalist when it comes to that, mostly because I can't stand my own handwriting. So, well, honestly, you can't read my handwriting. I should have been a doctor. So I'm going to bring this special day, endless joy, lots of cake and happiness. That's a lovely, lovely, beautiful thing to say. And especially kind of, this card is kind of aimed more towards a child. Although, as an adult, I wouldn't mind getting it because I do happen to love elephants. So I'm just going to lay it in here kind of straight adjacent. It's hard to get these straight sometimes. You can totally like stamp it down onto a piece of acetate to check it. But, you know, I just don't have time for that. I just kind of check it against the grid and eyeball it. If it looks good on the grid and my paper's in there straight, then I'm perfectly fine with it. And I'm just going to move my other stuff out of the way so it's not a distraction and zoom out so you can actually see what I'm doing. And what I'm doing here is just kind of rubbing over the stamp with the oils from my hands to kind of condition the stamp a little bit. And I'm thinking I want to use a blue ink, and I don't necessarily have a blue-gray, so I'm looking through my inks to see. Let's look at the Bali blue. And I think it's got too much of a green tone. So I am going to settle with the Arctic. And it's kind of a little purpley, but I can live with that. I can live with it. So I'll go ahead and just ink up the stamp and stamp it down. And I'll stamp it twice. And this ink is super wet because it's new. I've hardly used it at all. And the VersaFine Clair inks are very, very juicy. There we go. Perfect. I'm perfectly happy with that. So we'll just get this out of the way and move on with the card. I always want to do the inside of the card first so that you know, if you have stuff glued on the outside, it's not kind of in your way. And then I'm just going to take a blank piece of paper and just lay it over top of that because I know that ink's still wet and I don't want it to transfer onto the top of my card. And just give it a second to kind of dry and blot on that piece of copy paper. And I'll go ahead and glue this whole full layer down to the card base before I start adding my embellishments, including my shaker portion. Okay, and this is the part where I struggle getting it straight. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm just going to lay it down there on there as straight as I possibly can. And I'll have to trim off a little because most likely my card base wasn't trimmed evenly. I make my own card bases and sometimes I can't be trusted to get them perfectly straight. So I'll just kind of move this around a little bit on here best I can. This glue took hold pretty quick. So you can see me kind of pinching and pulling on it until it's as close as I can get it. And then I'll take my scissors and trim it. Just looking it over to think, well, do I really need to do that? But I do because I'm just sort of picky like that and things need to be straight and even. So carefully with my scissors, I will cut that excess off. And this piece is 2 pieces that are sticking out over, and I'm really taking a risk doing it this way. So in a minute, you'll see me change my mind and do it the proper way by opening it out so I'm not trying to cut through 2 pieces, and that's a lot easier to do. Then I can close it and trim off the other piece. There we go. And listen, if this base piece was the same color white, I might not worry about it as much because it's just a tiny bit, but because it is a cream color, it would show too much. So next I just need to compose the rest of the card. So I'm going to decide where I'm going to put my shaker, and I want room at the bottom for my sentiment. Let's get zoomed back in here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll go ahead and glue this piece down to where I want it and then move on to the rest. I love shakers like this where you can do the shaker portion independently of the card because, you know, as once you stick a shaker down, it's pretty much stuck down. At least for me, if I try to lift them off, all my shaker bits go flying. They stick to my acetate, all the things. And here's this adorable little elephant. Disclaimer here, he had a larger white border. I trimmed that off. You guys should know this about me. If you don't, I'm telling you now. I trim off the excess white off of my ephemera almost all the time. So in some cases, I'll leave a teeny tiny bit because there's really not any choice. And that's the case here. I did leave just the smallest border. But I like to pack as much onto a card as I can, and so by trimming some of that white off, it allows me to do that. But it also keeps the space separated so that if I'm working with a colored background like you see now, it still will stand out. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the 2 flags that I had cut from the Easy Wonder die and I'm gluing them together so that they become one flag. So that they're the perfect size to kind of flank the sides of my sentiment here. So I'll just throw some glue down here and I'll lay this piece down. I'll audition it with the sentiment, which is part of the Party Critters sentiments, and then decide if I like the size of it and then where I'm going to put it exactly. And I think I want to have the happy birthday kind of hanging over the little elephant. So I'm going to pop this piece up and I'm going to use a couple of extra pieces of paper right on top of my foam tape so that it becomes the same height as the elephant. So this is the same foam tape I used for my shaker. But my shaker, remember, has an extra layer of paper, and then I've got the layer of paper with my elephant. So I'm just going to grab a scrap here, and I'm just looking for something on my desk. The best bet is to just grab something from your desk if there is something. And in my case, there's always something. Let's see here. Okay, I found this little brown piece. And brown is fine. Nobody's going to see it because it's really, really tiny. I'm just going to add some glue. I'm going to just stick it right down to this, right down to the double-sided foam tape. And then I'll trim it and glue the other half of it onto there. And then we'll have the height that we need. And because this whole thing will be glued down to the card, I'm not worried about it staying on the card because it'll be glue and not foam tape. That foam tape is just kind of there just to create the height that I need. I could have put a bunch of chunks of paper, but that would add a lot of weight to my card, and I don't want that. So just deciding again how I want this. So I want to make sure, and it's important to make sure that when you're composing a card that your composition isn't too crazy. I don't know how to word that any differently, and if I did, I would. You want things to be, you want your eye drawn to the main subject, and so if you have something distracting way off to the side or way up at the top, it can confuse the eye. Okay, I hope that made sense. Let me know in the comments below if you understood what I was saying here. Because, it's me, and sometimes words are hard. So I've got the happy birthday to you, and all that's left to do is just add a little bit of embellishment. So I'm going to use some of these enamel dots that came in the January box of the month. And let's see, I think I'll use one of these little medium-ish ones on each side of the little flag. And they're just going to add some sparkle and shine. They're not contrasting or anything. I love a soft white or a cream color, eggshell, however you say it. So I've got those, and then I'll add a couple more. I'll get this big one, and I'll put it right on my acetate. We'll get the medium one and put it right on my acetate, just to kind of enhance the shaker portion. And then I'll get a small one. And that's it. I've got 5 embellishments, and that's the card. I hope you like this card, and if you do, I hope that you give us a thumbs up. Here's the inside with the greeting. And I could put more pieces on the inside, but I'm not going to do that today because we've spent a lot of time together just creating the little card itself. So yeah, don't forget the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, leave a comment down below. We like to hear what you have to say. And here's some still pictures of the finished image, or the finished card. Well, they're not really still, they're sort of moving, but you know what I mean. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.